Welcome to SCM 3301, Supply Chain Management Fundamentals. During this semester, we're going to be learning about the very diverse and exciting field of supply chain management. So let's start today by just getting an introduction to what supply chain management is all about. Now, the way that I like to think about it is that imagine there's a new company that you've just encountered that you really like. This might be a company that provides a product or a service, or maybe it's an app that are really excited about. And so you're telling your friend about this new company that you've encountered, and your friend has never heard of that company. So likely what your friend would say is, well, so I've never heard of that company. What does that company do? When you ask the question, what does a company do? What you're really doing is you're asking about that company's supply chain. And the reason is that supply chain management is the doing part of a company. The supply chain management is really how a company is able to deploy or do the things that that company does. So when someone has a very entrepreneurial idea about a new company concept, they've got these dreams and ideas that aren't reality yet. How do those dreams make it into reality? Well, that person or that company has to do supply chain management functions in order to make that dream a reality. So really, supply chain management is what makes dreams become a reality. It's the action pieces of a business. So a lot of our supply chain majors, the reason that they choose the major is that they love being in the action. They love being where the action is and how things actually happen. And so, they love that piece of business. I'll also tell you that companies that are world class are companies that do supply chain management functions very, very well. So supply chain management is really how a company creates, produces, and delivers products and services to their customers. So let's take a look at a real company's supply chain. You're familiar with this company already. This is Starbucks. So let's take a quick peek at Starbucks supply chain.
Supply chain is made up of plan, source, make, and deliver. And everything you see in the store comes through our supply chain.
Starbucks is involved in the journey of the bean all the way from planting it in the coffee farm to brewing that perfect cup of coffee and delivering it to our customer.
I'm outrageously proud of the coffee that we make. You can't buy better coffee.
We are enabling that experience, that Starbucks experience, to happen.
Here at Starbucks, we make a lot of coffee.
Planning in our supply chain involves planning everything from raw materials through manufacturing to our retail markets.
The coffee department sources the best coffee in the world for us to then roast and package.
Starbucks has one of the most unique distribution channels with the number of daily deliveries as well as the multiple temperature requirements. That's complexity.
My job here is to make sure that every coffee we get, all of the products we buy, we manufacture, we distribute are ethically and environmentally responsible. Sustainability is about good business.
So Starbucks makes the coffee, but we also work with the manufacturers of the cups and the napkins.
Cocoa, tea.
The lunch, the dairy items,
Everything that you could possibly think of that's in a store.
our deliver team makes it all happen.
Being creative, taking risks with new ideas is how you make your career.
What makes working at Starbucks so special to me is the sense of family and the passion for what we're doing. We're not making widgets, we're making the best coffee in the world.
So we can see here in this video that there's a lot of work that goes into making a cup of coffee. There's a surprisingly large amount of work and activity that's involved in supply chains. So this is how I like to think about it. You go to Starbucks and you pay for a cup of coffee, and I don't know what you think about Starbucks prices for their coffee. But of course, Starbucks is going to make a profit on their coffee, but they still have a cost that's associated with that cup of coffee, what it costs them. The thing that you need to think about when you buy a cup of coffee or when you buy any product or participate in any service that is offered that you're paying for is that the price that you pay not only goes for the profit for that particular company, but all of the cost that's associated with that has to pay for the entire supply chain. It has to pay for all the activities throughout the supply chain. So here we see with Starbucks, I mean, there's a lot of activities. So they have to find suppliers. They have to have people that can go out and find suppliers for all of the different products that Starbucks offers. You know, paying for the coffee beans and the water and the cups and the lids, and paying for the store costs, the electricity and the water and all the employees and the cleaning supplies that are used there and all the machines that are used in Starbucks. So all of those things have to be paid for. Forecasting, what's needed in the future, ensuring supplier quality and delivery, but then going back all the way through the supply chain. So not just paying for the coffee beans, but paying for the company that roasted the coffee beans and the machinery that that company used and all of the suppliers that that company uses, and all the way back to the farmer. The cost that's in your cup of coffee, eventually through the supply chain, it actually pays for the farmer, and it pays the farmer to fertilize the crops and to harvest the crops and collect them, and whatever storage containers that they use for the coffee beans, and then all of the transport that happens. So transporting the coffee beans, or the paper products, or the other things that you purchase at Starbucks, transporting them, paying for the truck drivers, paying for the trucks, paying for the gasoline in the trucks. So you can see there's a lot of cost that really does go into a cup of coffee. And when you pay the $2 or $3 or $4 or $5 for your special beverage there at Starbucks, the entire cost of the supply chain is embedded in the cost of that cup. And so all companies use supply chain principles because all companies are purchasing products or services to make their company run. So here's what we're going to talk about today. These are our chapter objectives or our lecture objectives. This slide will, a slide like this will always be presented in every one of these presentations. And the chapter objectives give you an overview of what we're going to talk about. They are the main ideas, and it might be helpful to use this for studying for exams. Of course, on exams, I will provide an exam review sheet that is very detailed, that gives every topic that we talk about so that you know exactly what to study. But you can be certain that on the exams there will be probably a couple of questions from each of the chapter objectives that you see in these slides. Also, I want to encourage you to watch all of the videos that are posted for this course. Of course, all of the information that you'll need that is going to be tested on quizzes and on exams will be covered during these video sessions. And so you should watch all of the video sessions to be able to get all of that knowledge that is going to be tested on the quizzes and exams. Some of the information is given on PowerPoint slides that you have access to. Some of it is included in videos that we feature during these video sessions. And then some of it is discussed by the instructor that's speaking in the video. I also want to let you know that the way that these class sessions, the way that these video sessions have been structured or put together is to help you do better on the exams, to help you perform better in this class. So on the math portions of the course, in the video sessions, we walk through the math very slowly, step by step, and actually give you the opportunity to work the math right along with the instructor during the video. Additionally, for supply chain management definitions of terms and concepts, when this is gone over during the video session, we're also including a variety of different business contexts and personal contexts to help you be able to understand and be able to memorize the material. So I've got to let you know that the class will be much harder if you try to do all the quizzes and the exams just looking at the PowerPoint slides. The class will become a lot easier if you actually watch the session videos and allow the instructor to give the examples, to give the business context for a lot of these ideas, because then you're going to have a business context or a personal context to attach that information. And when you do that, it's going to be a lot easier to remember the material so that when you're in on an exam, those exams will become a lot simpler if you'll watch the video. So I really want to encourage you, watch these session videos all the way through so that you can get all of the information to be successful in this class. So supply chain management involves managing all of the complex activities and interactions within our company and with outside companies that are involved in that doing piece of our business, in creating the functions or doing the activities that enable our companies to be able to do whatever it is that they do or deliver whatever it is that they deliver, whether that is a product or whether it's a service. So it's managing all of those activities that cost our company money, but that are necessary for us to be able to deliver those products or services. So you can think of it as managing all the activities that are involved in most of the cost that's involved in, for instance, Starbucks cup of coffee. So this is very important. When our students get jobs in a supply chain related role, they're given a book of business or a portfolio of business within that supply chain that they are managing. So, and it's their responsibility to make that part of the business run better. We like to think of it as better, faster, and cheaper. So better in terms of quality, faster, being able to do things quicker or deliver things to our customers faster, and cheaper, being able to do it for less money. Because supply chain majors and the supply chain management function in a business is so responsible for managing those costs that are involved in our products and in our services, and in improving them and also reducing the cost of them. Our majors get a lot of attention in organizations. This is just one of the reasons why the majors MIS and supply chain management, those are the two majors that command the highest starting salaries, and not just here at the University of Houston, but if you look at salary surveys across the United States, these are the two majors that command those highest starting salaries. And the reason is that they're responsible for a lot of this cost, and that's part of what they are managing in their businesses. So one of the things that I really enjoy about supply chain management, and I think a lot of our supply chain management majors also really enjoy about supply chain, is that it's always changing. There's always new things that are coming out, new innovations that are occurring, or new ways of doing business that give us some advantages in a business. And so we don't necessarily just stick with the same old things that we've always done. There's always new things to consider. Now, this is one of the reasons that we are teaching this class out of a textbook. There's a textbook for this, but just to be honest, the field of supply chain moves so quickly that there's no textbook that can really keep up with all of the innovations that are used within supply chain. So within this class, one thing that we will incorporate is we're going to incorporate some things into the lectures that aren't necessarily in the textbook. And those are just things that are current innovations, they're current ways of doing business that are being seen by companies as world-class. The professors here in Bauer, they understand this and they are very connected to industry, so they're bringing those things into their classrooms to teach our students the most relevant business knowledge, ways of managing supply chains that our companies that are hiring our students really desire them to have. And so, things really are changing, and they have to change. Technology is just really revolutionizing the way we do supply chain. We're going to talk a little bit in this course about blockchain and artificial intelligence. Now, those are things that are really cutting edge, but I'm certain that those will be part of curriculum in supply chain sometime in the future. Companies like Tesla are really trying to explore revolutionary ways of doing supply chain management. And there's several of our supply chain management majors that have jobs there at Tesla, managing parts of the Tesla processes. And they are actively working to try to experiment, to find new ways of doing things. And I'm convinced that sometime in the future, we're going to be teaching in our supply chain management classes some sort of a Tesla production processes or Tesla supply chain management principles, because they really are trying to experiment and push the envelope on the way companies can manage supply chains. And just one more example of this is that companies have to be willing to be flexible within their supply chain management practices to adapt to current business practice or current market needs. So one example of this is that I'm sure that you're aware, online shopping has just really become the norm for a lot of our business here in the United States. And because of this, brick and mortar stores, well, especially malls, have really been suffering because a lot of people do their shopping online instead of actually going to a physical location to purchase those products. Now, the physical location of a mall is a really big structure. And so one of the innovations that is relatively recent that companies are doing is that they're using mall space as warehouse space. So they're converting some of that mall space and mall storefront to storage for goods that can be shipped then to customers. So customers would buy online, but of course the malls are located real close to and sort of within neighborhoods. And so those products then would be located at a location that's a lot closer to their customers, which would make shipping to their customers a lot faster and a lot cheaper if those products are already stored there in that mall space, and sort of reconfiguring that mall space to have double duty, to both be a storefront for people to come visit and buy in person, but also a place where they can ship out from that location for online sales. And other big box retailers have picked up on this idea. Companies like Home Depot and Lowe's and Walmart and Target are starting to do those very same things, where they're using their stores not just as a place where customers come and take a look at their products in person, but also just storing inventory and then pulling those items off the shelf to be able to ship directly to customers that are within that particular local area. And so this is just an example of how in supply chain, one of the exciting things about a career in supply chain is that it's always changing, you're always learning, you're always exploring and trying to find new ways of doing things. And it's our students that are finding those innovations and having the excitement of sort of pushing the boundaries on what's possible in supply chain management. So because supply chain management is the doing or the action part of a business, the companies that do supply chain very, very well, in other words, able to deliver their products and services better, higher quality, faster, and cheaper, those are the companies that achieve world-class status and become very, very competitive in their business markets. So why are you taking this class, SCM 3301? Well, of course, you have to take this class in order to graduate. It's one of the required courses, but let's talk about why that is a required course. Because supply chain management is that doing or action piece of a business, every function in a business will be communicating with, coordinating with activities within the supply chain. So no matter what your major, whether it's finance or accounting or marketing or sales, management, whatever it is, you in your career, in your function in a business, you will be interacting with and communicating with the folks that are working in supply chain to be able to make that company run. So there's a couple of things that I want for you. I want you to be able to speak the language of supply chain because when you are in those functions and coordinating activities with folks in supply chain, you're going to need to be able to speak the language of supply chain. And I will tell you that functions like sales and marketing and finance, they actually speak this language. They use a lot of the vocabulary that we're going to be talking about in this class to be able to communicate what is needed in an organization. So it's going to be important for you to do that. And additionally, as you're planning your activities, it's going to be important for you to be able to understand what is needed in terms of the supply chain and what complexities the supply chain managers face, so that you can have an appreciation for that and better be partners with the supply chain professionals in your organization. I do want to give you an overview of supply chain management and expose you to supply chain management as a major. So we're going to be talking a little bit about what courses you would be taking as a supply chain management major, and also what supply chain management careers look like, because there's a wide range, a very diverse range of careers that you can get. We talked with Starbucks. We saw in that opening video that supply chain is plan, buy, make, and deliver. And there's a variety of different jobs that are available in those, and a variety of different career paths that you can take as a supply chain management professional. So I want you to be exposed to that, and give you the opportunity to perhaps choose supply chain if this class is something that is interesting to you. If the content in it is enjoyable and interesting to you, then perhaps a career in supply chain might be for you. The other thing that I would like to do is, I know that there are many of you that have already decided you would like to pursue supply chain management as a major. And part of the purpose of this course is to go over a lot of the basic topics, the foundational topics that you're going to need going into your classes within supply chain, so that in your classes in major, then within the first week or so of class, your professor can say, hey, you learned this in SCM 3301. Let's just do a quick review. We won't do a deep dive on it. And then that way you can move quickly into other material that's going to make you very competitive in the marketplace for jobs in supply chain management. So maybe a little bit of history. Initially, companies managed their, what we think of now as supply chain, by using operations management principles. And here's kind of a diagram. This comes from the textbook that relates to that, where we take inputs and we transform them into outputs. So we buy materials. Of course, we do materials, people, information. We take that, we transform it, or use our processes to blend those inputs in different ways, to combine those inputs into something that is unique that we can sell to a customer. And those are our outputs, which are those tangible goods or services that we then deploy or sell to our customers. And so the way business management was initially thought of was, I just need to manage this piece of the puzzle. I need to manage what I do. And if our company can do what we do best, then that'll be the best that we can do. And so that's what companies would do, is focus on how do we take these inputs and transform them into outputs, again, better, faster, cheaper. Here was the thing that companies started to realize. It's started to realize that the cost that's involved in my operation includes the cost of my inputs. The cost of my inputs is the sum of all of the costs of all of the supply chain. In other words, all of my suppliers, my suppliers, all the way back, and realize that really I'm not trying to manage just what my one company does, or the cost that's involved in what my company does, and the quality as well, is not just dependent on what I do. It's actually dependent on what every other company in this network of companies of which I am a part is doing. And so suddenly companies realize that, you know what, we can actually have a bigger impact on our cost and on our quality and on our delivery performance if we work to coordinate our activities and manage our entire network of companies that is providing these products or services, or that's a part of managing those products or services. So in supply chain, this is what we do. We are working to manage that entire network of companies, and not just trying to optimize our one company's performance. Because if we only focus on our own company, we will probably be sub-optimizing in the supply chain. Just doing what is good for us as one individual company will probably make it harder or worse for other companies in the supply chain, either for our suppliers or for our customers. And so what we're really trying to do is optimize throughout the supply chain. So like we saw with Starbucks, We think of supply chain management as the activities of plan, buy or source, make, deliver, and then return as well, which is another piece of the supply chain that companies really are exploring, which is what are the activities involved in getting returns from our customers. We call this reverse logistics. We'll talk about this at the end of the course. So this plan, buy, make, deliver cycle, this is how companies manage their supply chains. It's activities within each one of these within each one of these activities. And this is exactly how we have organized our course. We're going to talk about plan and then buy and then make and deliver. And you can see this on the lecture schedule for this course. Each lecture sort of relates to either plan, buy, make, or deliver. Now, all of these activities are interacting with one another. They are coordinated with one another. So it's kind of difficult to talk about only one of these without talking about some components of the others because they are interconnected. But just because we can't talk about all of supply chain all at once, we will take these kind of sequentially. Although some of the activities that you'll see, especially when we talk about plan, are activities that we do within buying, making, and delivering because strategy is involved in doing the buy, make, and deliver pieces of supply chain. So let's talk about each one of these. So plan is kind of that executive management part of supply chain. The fact that in supply chain and in the supply chain curriculum, we talk and learn about plan, we talk about creating strategies for our business and how the supply chain can support or in some cases even drive that strategy. This is one of the reasons why our students, when our students get job supply chain professionals, get a lot of attention and start to get promoted in organizations toward those C-suite level positions because they are very comfortable with dealing with these strategy related decisions that we have to make when we're in this sort of plan function in a business. Buying, that's the purchasing piece. That's where we're buying products from other companies, from suppliers, materials that we might need, where we're sourcing, we could be sourcing people, human resources. We can also be sourcing services. So we might be buying or sourcing services from another company that are going to help us to be able to do whatever it is that we need to do. Then the make piece, that's the traditional, inputs transformed into outputs that we saw, that operations management piece. That is the make function of supply chain, where we actually take all of those inputs, the stuff that we're buying and sourcing, products, services, and we're blending those, combining those, or changing those in some way to create a unique product or service. And then we have to have a way of getting that to our customer. So that's the deliver function, is figuring out what is the best way to get our products and services into the hands of our customer. So after graduating with a degree in supply chain management, you will typically get a job that is focused in one of these areas, most likely in buy and source, or in make, or in deliver, or doing logistics. So purchasing products, or in the operations piece of a business, or in the delivery, shipping, and logistics piece of a business. And you'll be focused in that one area. Now that doesn't mean that that's where you're stuck for the rest of your career. That's just where you begin your career. Because all of the pieces of supply chain, plan, buy, make, and deliver, are all interconnected, in whatever role you have in a business, you will be interacting with other supply chain professionals that are in the other parts of that business. And then typically, after a time frame of 18 months, 2 years, 2.5 years, something along those lines, then it's very easy then to transition to a different piece of the supply chain. In fact, a lot of companies will actually encourage you to get experience in different parts of the supply chain because they want you to have the experience in all of those functions, buy, make, and deliver, so that they can promote you into more executive strategy functions of a business where you would be doing more of the planning function of supply chain. There are a lot of companies that actually have a new employee rotation plan, where you would spend 6 months in a variety of different jobs within plan, buy, make, and deliver, so that you can learn all of those different functions, making you a more well-rounded professional in supply chain management. There are also a few high-level jobs that some of our very, very best students get, where they are doing all of these activities simultaneously. Now, these jobs, they aren't just for every, you get a supply chain management degree and you get this type of a job. These are for our very, very top students. So if you were one of the very top students in our supply chain management program, you might have the availability, might have the opportunity to get one of these jobs. We've got some of our majors that have been able to do this. They are managing things like managing the entire supply chain for Xbox, for Microsoft, or managing the iPhone. That's iPhone, everything from product development to procurement of materials, to managing the production and where that happens and how that happens, to distributing a new iPhone model when that iPhone model comes out. One of our recent supply chain management majors is managing SpaceX's Starlink program, where they're deploying thousands of satellites to be able to manage communications globally, and planning to expand that even further. And so we've got one of our majors in there where those people are doing plan, buy, make, and deliver. They're doing it all and kind of managing teams related to that. But as I mentioned, that's for our very elite, the top students get those jobs. Most of our majors will get a job focused on one of the areas of supply chain, most likely in buy, make, or deliver, but be interacting with and participating with all of these different functions as you interact with different supply chain professionals. So this is how we refer to different parts of the supply chain. So here's some vocabulary that is related to supply chain. And I have to let you know, you see these words on the slide, focal firm, upstream, downstream. These are terms that are actually used in businesses. In fact, they're not just used in the supply chain function. They're used in every function of the business. So I know some folks, for instance, that are in sales, and they'll go to a meeting within their company where they are meeting other people within the business and sort of networking with different functions in the business. And when they introduce themselves, they say, shake hands and say, "Hi, my name is," and one of the first questions they ask is, "What part of the business are you in?" And the answer to that question is, they'll say, "I'm in the upstream part of the business," or "I'm in the downstream part of the business." So for instance, if you are in sales, then you are in the downstream part of the business next to your customers. If you are in purchasing procurement, you're in the upstream part of the business, or even further upstream. You might be in oil and gas, for instance. You might be in exploration, and that would be way, way upstream in the supply chain. And so this is exactly the terms that they'll use when they're talking with one another. So that's why it's important for you to know that as well. So let's go through this. So first is the focal firm. So the focal firm is whatever company you're talking about. So if you're having a discussion with someone, you've got the focal firm is if you're talking about your organization, then your firm, your organization is the focal firm. Now your suppliers are upstream from you. So the idea here is that it's kind of like you have a mountain with a spring at the top of the mountain, and it's providing water, and then that goes into a river that flows down the mountain and then all the way down to the bottom. So we have our suppliers are where the supply of that water is from at the top of the mountain. That's upstream. And then of course the water flows downhill all the way down to the bottom of the mountain where our customer is, and that customer is downstream. So upstream companies, those are our suppliers, and then downstream, those are our customers. Now of course our suppliers, that's upstream, our suppliers also have suppliers. So our supplier that we pay, that we get materials, supplies, or services from, that is our tier 1 supplier, or our first tier supplier. That's who we pay for our services and for our materials that we buy from them. But of course they have suppliers. Now their suppliers are tier 2 suppliers to us. They are second tier suppliers. So that's our supplier's supplier. Similarly, we sell to a customer who buys our products and services. That's our tier one customer. But we may also have customers, our customer may be using our products and services to serve other customers, and so those would be our tier two customers. So we can have tier one, tier two, tier three suppliers, tier one, tier two, tier three customers. I will tell you that once companies began realizing the importance of managing the entire supply chain, of course, the first thing that companies did is begin coordinating more activities with and begin managing their tier one suppliers and their tier one customers, because those were the companies that they were speaking with directly. But recently, using technology, we are getting better and better at being able to manage and coordinate activities with our tier two suppliers and our tier two customers. I also have to tell you about some exciting developments in supply chain management. So companies that are in social media, I guess one that I know of specifically because there's some of our supply chain majors that are working there is Facebook. We've got several supply chain majors working at Facebook. One of the things that Facebook is working on is using that Facebook social media technology to be able to coordinate supply chain management activities so that, for instance, a focal firm can post something that they're seeing or something that is happening in the marketplace, something that they're planning to do in the future, and then that gets posted on the social media, essentially social media page of their tier one suppliers, their tier two suppliers, potentially their tier three suppliers, so that each supplier in the network and each customer in the network has better visibility of and connectivity with the other members of the supply chain to better be able to coordinate activities when they're doing their planning together. And so I think that's one of the exciting innovations that's occurring. Like I said, we've got our supply chain majors there working at Facebook and working on supply chain solutions using that social media technology for supply chain tech solutions. It's very exciting. So this is kind of what the supply chain looks like. Your company there at the center, that is the focal firm. And in your company, you're doing the parts of supply chain. You're doing plan, you're doing buy or source, make, deliver. There's return there that also occurs, but plan, buy, make, and deliver. And that's at the focal firm. Now, if you look just to your left, on this diagram, your left, you have your suppliers. That is upstream. And you have an upstream company. They are also doing plan, source, make, deliver. And their deliver function coordinates with or communicates with or interacts with your sourcing function or your buy function. Then your supplier, that's your tier one supplier. You go left of that supplier and you have a supplier's supplier who's doing the same thing. The same thing happens in many companies in large supply chains to the right of your company. So if you look at your company, then you have the deliver piece there. If you look to the right of that, you have your customer. Your customer is also doing plan, buy, make, and deliver. And their sourcing function or their buy function is coordinating with your deliver function. That's how you're connected with them. And then your customer may have customers as well. But of course, real supply chains are more complex than this. So you don't just have one supplier. Your company may have dozens or hundreds, or in some large companies, thousands of different suppliers that you're having to manage. And then each one of those companies will also have dozens or hundreds of suppliers for their company as well. Similarly, on the downstream side, you will have customers. You're not just going to have one customer. You'll have dozens of customers or hundreds or thousands of customers. And then those customers will have multiple customers as well. So this network, even though this diagram really is still pretty simple, in real supply chains, the supply chain is very complex. That network of companies is very complex. And so this is one of the challenges of supply chain management, is managing that complexity, is looking at the variety of companies in the network, at how they're all connected, and being able to best manage the entire supply chain to reduce cost, to increase quality, and to also increase the speed throughout the supply chain. And so this takes a lot of work. This is the reason why our majors get paid so well. is because of this complexity and the importance to the functioning of the organization. Now, every company has suppliers. So every company buys things from another company. It might be materials, it might be services, but they're going to buy things from other companies that they're going to then use to be able to deploy their products and services to companies. So every company practices supply chain. And it's increasingly important in our global economy that those supply chains are managed well. Now, one of the really, I think, interesting things about supply chain management and really fun things about supply chain is that there are actually many different strategies for doing well in supply chain management. Because this network of companies is so complex, there's a variety of different ways to configure this network to come with to end up with the outcomes that you're looking for as an organization. So different companies will approach this different ways. It's one thing that makes supply chain exciting, because when you get into a supply chain management role, it's not like you take the data from the supply chain and you put it into an Excel sheet and you do some calculations and you come out with a number, and that is the best way of managing that particular supply chain. There's actually, because of the complexity that's here, there's actually multiple ways, many different ways of configuring this. So as a supply chain management professional, you get to use your creativity. You're certainly going to be using your knowledge, the things that we teach you in the supply chain curriculum. You're going to be using some analytics, which some of it we'll be doing here in this class. But then you're also going to be using your creativity and your relationships to be able to best configure a supply chain and best configure the way that the companies within that supply chain interact. And there's not necessarily a right answer. It's that we get to try out different things and we get to explore and experiment and see how things work and continually improve on them. And different companies may approach it in different ways, which is one of the things that I think makes supply chain management so exciting as a career. So one last thing before we talk about the policies of the course and the syllabus and the schedule. So this is a diagram of a supply chain. It's been simplified, but from it you can get a good idea that different parts of the supply chain are interconnected with one another. Different companies within a supply chain are related to one another in different ways, and then some are related to one another in the same way. Some different competing companies will actually have the same suppliers. Some of the different suppliers might have the same customers. So there's a lot of variability here. This is a simplified model, but the other thing that you'll recognize is that this is a global model, and especially with technology advancing, supply chains today are global, and so they require people that have a knowledge of a variety of different cultures, being able to interact with suppliers or customers that are located globally, and then providing solutions, whether that's for sourcing or whether it's for logistics, transportation, to be able to get materials from global sources or be able to deliver our products or services to global customers. And so this is just part of the excitement of supply chain and a lot of the variability that is involved in the different careers in supply chain. There's a lot of different areas globally that you can position yourself as a supply chain major and be very successful. So let's talk through the syllabus, the course syllabus and course policies for this semester. Now, all of the materials that you'll need for the course are located on Blackboard or have links through Blackboard. So go ahead and go to Blackboard. We have a section of Blackboard that contains the syllabus and the course schedule. So click on there and get a copy of the syllabus. I'm not going to be reading the syllabus to you. You will need to read the syllabus in order to obtain all of the course policies, but I will be going through the syllabus and giving you some highlights of some of our policies. So on the front page of the syllabus, it has your instructor's name, contact information so that you can get in touch with them. I also want to let you know we will have a couple of instructional assistants for the course to add support to the course. Now, these are MBA students and Masters in Supply Chain Management students, so they definitely have a strong grasp of supply chain management and the concepts that we're talking about in this course, and they'll be a great resource for you. In fact, I'd like for them, the instructional assistants, to be your first point of contact, especially when it comes to practice problems. On these videos, we're going to be demonstrating for you all of the math that is required on the exams. We're going through examples here on the videos. You'll have access to all of those solutions as well. Then on Blackboard, we have lots of practice problems for you to practice doing these type problems so you can prepare well for the exams. And the instructional assistants will be a great resource if you have questions about those practice problems. If you have other questions about the course or things that are going on, feel free to reach out to the instructional assistants. In many cases, they will be able to help you. If not, they'll forward that to your instructor. Of course, your instructor contact information is here as well if you need to reach out directly to them. So as I mentioned, all of the course materials are located on Blackboard. All of the PowerPoint slides that you see in these videos are located on Blackboard. So even within this video, the slides that we're seeing, including this one, is located on Blackboard in the lecture notes section of Blackboard. There are practice problems available on Blackboard. There are other resources, articles, there's links to videos about supply chain, videos about supply chain management careers. The exam review sheets are there on Blackboard. So a lot of resources are available there on Blackboard. It'll be the first place that you go. Also on the left side of Blackboard, there is a link to MyOM Lab. So when you click on MyOM Lab, it'll take you to a page in Blackboard that has a lot of resources related to our textbook. At the top, it has a link that's entitled something like the MyOM Lab main page, or take me to MyOM Lab. So you click on that link, it'll take you to our textbook manufacturer's page. So let's take a look at the options for getting access to MyOM Lab. You will need access to MyOM Lab in order to complete this course. MyOM Lab will give you access to the e-text of the book that on which this course is based. So for most of the material on the slides, there's going to be accompanying material in that textbook that will explain it in different ways. So we'll have it displayed on the slides. Then in these videos, I will be explaining the concepts to you from my perspective and in my words. But then in the textbook, it's going to give you other perspectives and other examples to help reinforce those learnings. Additionally, there will be some assignments that you'll need to complete in the course, which we'll cover in a few minutes, that you can only do through MyOM Lab. So here's how to get to MyOM Lab and get an account or get registered with Pearson's MyOM Lab. In Blackboard, click on the MyOM Lab link. It will take you to our MyOM Lab course, and that is where you'll be able to register for access. Once you register, you'll always be able to get back to that MyOM Lab link by clicking through Blackboard to get there, and it will take you automatically into that link. So here are some frequently asked questions about MyOM Lab, and I'll let you read through this slide on your own. I'm not going to read it for you. Let me give you one piece of advice when registering for MyOM Lab through Blackboard. Sometimes students will encounter problems if there are two students who try to go through the same Blackboard to register with Pearson. So for instance, one student logs into their Blackboard account, then they click on the MyOM Lab link, they go to Pearson and they register for MyOM Lab. So that will work out just fine. Then sometimes what happens is there's one of their friends, they say to their friend, hey, you can log in to MyOM Lab on my laptop. And so what that student will do is they'll log into their Blackboard, and then they'll click on MyOMLab and go to Pearson and log in to Pearson, then register with Pearson in the MyOMLab through that same laptop and same browser. The thing that happens is when you register with MyOMLab, there is a cookie that's put on the computer that is able to remember your registration with MyOMLab, so you don't have to log in each time. And it does that through that particular browser that you use. So if two students are going in through the same laptop on that same computer on the same browser and going to MyOMLab, sometimes it can get confused about which student is registered. So if you're going to use a friend's computer, my advice to you would be to go in using a different browser than they use. So there's several internet browsers you can use. You can use Internet Explorer, you can use Firefox, you can use Google Chrome, or some other browser that you like to use. Whatever browser your friend used to log into Blackboard and then MyOMLab, you would want to log in through a different browser. If you use the school's computers, so if you use the computer lab here in Bauer, then everything will work out just fine. You can go into Blackboard, click through to MyOMLab, and your registration should work out just fine. If you have any questions, you can forward those questions to your instructor, and I'll just let you know your instructor may ask you to contact MyOMLab support. So that's why the phone number and the link to MyOMLab support is located here on this slide. If you have problems with that, the Pearson folks are very excited and interested in making sure that you can get registered for MyOMLab. In the next section of the syllabus, it discusses academic integrity. In this course, the university rules around academic integrity certainly apply. We take those very seriously, and there are some functionality in place within this course to protect the academic honesty within the course. So you can take a look at that section. There are also special accommodations that are provided by the university in order to help increase course performance. And let me tell you why this might apply to you. If you know from your experiences in other courses that there are certain accommodations that you need to be successful in those courses, or if you find that you are a person that has nervousness around exams, excessive nervousness where you have testing anxiety, or where when you go to take exams, you just get anxious about them, or it just takes you longer to process the information on an exam, that you know the information well and you study well for the exams, but the testing environment is difficult for you to deal with in the time frame that's often provided on an exam. There are accommodations that are available through an organization on campus called the CSD. You contact them, and then they work with the professors to set up those accommodations and put that in motion and get that to work. So your professor will be happy to work with you with the CSD. You just need to contact them. There is some paperwork to fill out. They have some requirements that you would need to provide. And then there is some paperwork that you and your professor would fill out. So the information about the CSD is located in the syllabus. Feel free to take a look at that and get in contact with them if that applies to you. We really do want every student to have the best opportunity to do well in this class. So let's talk about what is involved in the grading for the course. Now, there are 3 closed book, closed note exams. You will be able to use a calculator on the exam. There are a variety of calculators that are valid for taking these exams. Those calculators, you should have one of those calculators already because those are calculators that have been required in courses that you have taken previously at the University of Houston. All of our exams will be administered at the CASA Testing Center. So there are several CASA Testing Center locations on campus. So for your semester, these exams will be located at one of those. All that information will be on the syllabus or in announcements that are sent to you about where those exams will take place. If you've never taken an exam at CASA before, you will need to sign up for CASA Access through the website, through the CASA website that's listed in the syllabus. So take a look at the testing section of the syllabus for that link. Each exam will take place over a period of 3 to 5 days. Now, you do not get to choose the day necessarily that you take that exam, but your testing slot, time slot, will be reserved on one of those 3 to 5 days. To reserve a time slot through CASA, you will get onto the CASA scheduler 2 weeks prior to the exam dates. So right before our first exam, look at the very first exam date. 2 weeks prior to that at midnight, the CASA scheduler opens up. You'll be able to go on that online and sign up for a time slot. Now, there's no guarantee that you will get the time or the date that you prefer. It's a first come, first serve for reserving those time slots, so get on there early. Now, once you've reserved your time slot, you will get a notification from CASA about what the date and the time is for your reservation. Make a note of your testing date and time. You must know when that date and time is so that you can arrive on the proper day and at the proper time. CASA will not allow late attendance, so you need to be early to your exam. Our suggestion is that you arrive at least 1 hour early to your exam. If you plan to do this, then you'll avoid things like traffic backups or getting a flat tire or having car trouble or navigating some wreck or on the freeway or weather delays, because there are no excuses for late attendance with the CASA Testing Center. There are also no excuses for missing an exam session. So we do not excuse absences for just forgetting your reservation, or for writing down the wrong date and showing up to CASA at the wrong time, or if you have a headache or you get the sniffles in the morning, or because you have to work that particular day, or because there was too much traffic one particular day. So the exam dates, those range of dates, are listed in the syllabus schedule right now. So we suggest that you go onto the course schedule, take a look at what those dates are, and arrange to clear your schedule for those dates right now. Make sure that you don't plan business trips or other activities during those dates until you know that you have a definite time slot at CASA that you will be able to keep. Now, a couple of incentives related to the exams. One is that we will count your best exam the most and your worst exam the least. So, that way, if you don't do as well as you would have liked on one particular exam, then it's just that exam won't count as much as the other two exams. So we have kind of a progressive grading scale on those exams. Another thing is that the exams are all worth 102 points. So it's as if you're getting a 2-point bonus on every exam. So we feel that is a little incentive for you. Additionally, now this is the big one. This is if you are able to attend your exam at CASA. Now, if you're taking your exam with the CSD, then this would apply to you as well if you take the exam at the CSD. If you either take the exam at the CSD or at CASA without having to interact with the professor for special needs of special scheduling, or having mistakes or having to reschedule or having to email the professor about how to sign up at CASA and those sorts of things, then we will give you 100 for a bonus quiz, and you'll have one of these opportunities for each one of the exams. So in order to get this score of 100 for a bonus quiz, then all you have to do is schedule your exam through CASA or schedule your exam with the CSD using their methods, and then just show up for the appointment that you make with them. And show up reliably and take that exam when you have scheduled. And if you do that, then we will award you with a 100 grade for a bonus quiz. So there will be 6 open book quizzes, and these will be administered through Blackboard. So each quiz will consist of 20 multiple choice questions. You will have 5 hours after starting the quiz to complete the quiz, and that is a continuous timer. So as soon as you click on the quiz, that timer will begin, and then you will need to complete the quiz, which is 20 multiple choice questions within that 5-hour period. So here's what will be covered on each quiz. Now, the content, the session content for each quiz will be posted on the quiz itself. So in Blackboard, in the quizzes section, when you click on the quizzes section, it will show you what quizzes are available for you to take. And then within each of those quizzes, in the description of the quiz, it will tell you which sessions will be covered on that quiz, which session's material will be covered on the quiz. And so here is the content of each quiz. Here's where those 20 questions come from. The first one is mathematical concepts that are presented within the session video. And those mathematical concepts will also be covered in the practice problems. So there'll be math-based questions, which will be similar to the type of format that you might see on the exam. In other words, you'll see the review sheet, and we'll go over the review sheet in a review session video, and you'll be able to see that there are formulas that will be given to you on the exam, and so you'll get to see kind of how that is going to look for you on the exam so that you can be prepared. Also, within each lecture video, there will be embedded video profiles, which will describe supply chain management careers or supply chain management professionals, or some profiles of our Bauer supply chain management graduates, and some previews of supply chain management in major courses. So for example, within this video, you've already seen a representation of Starbucks supply chain within a little video within this introduction video. So that Starbucks video would be an example of content that would be covered on the quizzes that you'll be taking on Blackboard. So each quiz will contain a few questions that will come from watching those profile videos. So as long as you have watched our session videos and watched each one of those little profile videos that's embedded in there, heard what I've had to say about those, then you should be prepared to answer those correctly on the quiz. And then occasionally there will be some supply chain management concepts that will also be covered in the quizzes. Any of those supply chain management concepts, though, will all be covered here on the session video and in the PowerPoints. It will all be open books, so you can have you can have a copy of the session video open in YouTube. You can also have the PowerPoint presentation open on your laptop or on your device, and then be taking the quiz and be referencing back at the material. This is not meant to be a difficult quiz. It is meant to prepare you for supply chain management as a major potentially, and also in a way prepare you for the exams, especially in regards to the mathematical or quantitative content of the exam. So let's talk about the scheduling of the quizzes. So each exam will have 2 quizzes that are related to it. So for instance, exam 1 is related to quiz 1 and quiz 2. Exam 2 is related to quiz 3 and quiz 4. Now, the 2 quizzes for a particular exam, they will be due. In other words, you must complete those quizzes before the very first exam testing session. And all of these dates are presented very clearly in the syllabus schedule. So I'll encourage you to take a look at the syllabus schedule that is posted on Blackboard. You can complete the quiz anytime leading up to them, but that is the due date for that quiz. Now, as soon as you take the quiz, your grade will show up in the grade book, in the Blackboard grade book, so you'll be able to see what grade you made, but you will not be able to tell what questions you answered correctly and what answers you answered incorrectly. However, 2 days before the exam, 2 days before the exam session, if you have completed a quiz, then your grade on Blackboard will become clickable. In other words, you'll be able to click on your grade and you will open up a link and you'll be able to see the questions you got correct and the questions that you got incorrect. So if you would like to use those to help you study, then you can do that at that point. The only way you're going to be able to see that is if you complete a quiz prior to 2 days before a particular exam session. Now, during the range of dates that are listed in the syllabus for each exam, In other words, when there are students taking exams during those days that students are taking exams, Blackboard functionality will be shut down. The only thing you'll be able to do on Blackboard is take an exam at CASA. All the other functionality of Blackboard will be shut down during the exams. We do this for a couple of reasons. One is that it helps us to be able to protect academic honesty, and so that is going to be something that is important to us. And then the other thing is that it provides a little bit of equity for students that are taking the exam on early dates versus students taking the exam at later dates, so that overall students have the same amount of time of access to the material on Blackboard before a particular exam. So what this means for you in terms of looking at your quiz results is that if you want to be able to see your quiz results prior to taking an exam, then you need to look at those quiz results during the 2 days prior to the exam, because those results will not be available prior to that, and Blackboard will be shut down during the exam, so you won't be able to look at your quiz results during the exam session. Okay, so overall you'll have 6 of those open book quizzes, and then you will have your attendance at 3 exams. So that's 9 quiz grades altogether that you'll have. We will drop the lowest 1. So we'll take the best 8. That will be the average of that will be your quiz grade. Now, in addition to this, we have on MyOMLab, we have guided learning module exercises on MyOMLab. To get to those, you'll click on MyOMLab. You'll go to your assignments on MyOMLab, and the guided learning modules will be there. And all the due dates for those are provided on the syllabus schedule, so you'll be able to see that. Here's what the guided learning modules are, it will take you through asking you some multiple choice questions. You do not have to know the answers to those questions right now, but you answer them to the best of your ability. It is open book, so you can take a look at those, but you just answer those to the best of your ability. As you work through, then it will take you back after a few questions, and it knows kind of what you know and what you don't know, and it will take you back and take you through parts of the textbook and will sort of teach you that material, and then continue progressing you through some more multiple choice questions. So it's kind of like a few steps forward and a step back, and a few steps forward and a step back. So you're working your way through the concepts that are presented in the chapters of the textbook through these guided learning modules. Now, our students have found that these are really, really helpful for just getting a general overview of the content that's in the textbook. The questions on the guided learning modules, those are not the same thing as exam questions. The exam questions are based upon our class slides and these videos that you're watching, but it will give you information and will help you to better understand the overall concepts of supply chain that are presented there in the textbook. So for this, we understand that sometimes it can be frustrating going through these, especially if you find yourself stuck and unable to progress through a certain point. And so what we're going to do is that as long as you get at least 80% of the way through a guided learning module, so greater than 80% of the way through a guided learning module, then we will count that as a 100% for that guided learning module grade. There are 12 guided learning modules that are scheduled throughout the semester. You will do those, and then we will take the best 11 of those. We will drop the lowest 1. Again, if you earn at least 80% on a guided learning module, then we'll count that as a 100. Now keep in mind, on the guided learning modules, you will have a gradebook on MyOMLab. The graded book on MyOMLab is synced with the gradebook on Blackboard, but it does not sync instantaneously. So when you go through a guided learning module, you will get a grade on MyOMLab. It may take a couple of days for that grade to migrate over to Blackboard. The other thing to keep in mind is that whatever grade you earn on a guided learning module, that is the grade that will show up in the gradebook on Blackboard. We will not round that up to 100. For instance, if you got an 83 on the guided learning module, your grade on Blackboard will be an 83 on that guided learning module. We only round that up to hundreds when we're doing the final grade calculation. So you'll just see those grades there on Blackboard. Now, in the past, we have found that students really like these guided learning modules. In fact, most students will get hundreds on the guided learning modules because they just find them so helpful. Now, you'll have the entire time until that due date to finish a guided learning module. There's no time constraint on it except for the due date. So pay very close attention to the due date that is listed there in the schedule. The guided learning module will need to be completed by midnight of the date that is listed in the schedule. At midnight on that date, whatever progress you have made on that guided learning module, that will be the progress that is recorded in the gradebook. Now, to help you calculate your grade, we have a grading calculator. It's an Excel-based grading calculator. To work the grading calculator, you just enter the grades that you've earned on assignments into that calculator. It will calculate your grade the exact same way that your professor will calculate the grade at the end of the semester, and will give you a preview of what your grade could be. We'll also tell you what sorts of grades you need to make on subsequent assignments in order to earn the letter grade that you would like to make in the course. So because supply chain management incorporates all of the doing functions of a business, it is very broad. There's quite a bit of knowledge that's included in this. For this course, we are trying to provide you with just a cross-section of the basics of all of the areas of supply chain management so that you can get a taste for what supply chain management is all about. I believe, though, that the content in this course will be useful to you regardless of your major, because supply chain management is all about doing better at the action parts of a business. Then any time that you are trying to accomplish something, anytime you have a dream that you would like to accomplish, someone that you want to serve, or some activity that you are interested in doing, then knowing supply chain management principles will be able to help you accomplish those things more effectively, higher quality, and at lower cost. So we all want to be known for something. We all have dreams. I think most all of us want to make an impact on the world. So I'm encouraging you to dream big. You know, our world needs to have those creative and innovative ideas. Supply chain management is the principle or the business function that enables those dreams to become a reality, because it really is the doing piece of a business. So any business, any product, any service that impacts your life has been made a reality because there were people that were managing the supply chain. And of course, supply chain management helps businesses become more profitable, and that's why we have it here in the business school. But supply chain management concepts will also help make your life more impactful, even if your dreams are non-profit. Supply chain is all about making things happen. So I want you to watch this video, and it describes how supply chain management is used in disaster relief. And this is really a key area in order to make effective, to have effective disaster relief and to serve and help the most people as quickly as possible. You need to have a strong supply chain and a strong supply chain background. So this is the video that will close out today's lecture, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you in our next lecture video.
On January 12, 2010, a devastating earthquake struck Haiti. People the world over were stunned by the size of the catastrophe and the faces of despair. Haitians needed food, medicine, clothing. Many companies reached out to help. This is the story of one of them.
I think people help others because, you know, we're all people and understand when someone is hurting, someone needs help. Everybody would like to volunteer, but a lot of times people don't know how to help and what they need to do.
Chip Chappell had the know-how to create a plan. UPS put their people and resources to work. Teaming up with UNICEF, Chip devised a logistics plan in just 72 hours. It would send shipments of supplies to homeless children in Haiti. It began with a call to UPS workers in New Jersey. Would anyone give up a weekend to volunteer?
Thank you. Good morning. Hey, we have a lot of folks here. The local manager just asked her employees, can you make yourself available to assist on Saturday? And so they all arrived on Saturday morning at our facility, and we all worked together for the children in Haiti.
Everyone who has felt powerless in the face of other people's suffering understands the urge to help. Scores of workers seized the opportunity.
I'm just trying to help as much as I can. It's just our small way of being able to contribute. Can't be there on the front line, so behind the scenes is just as good.
I just think it's such a tremendous opportunity to really make a difference.
I just wish there was something I could do in life where I made a difference, and this is the first time that I've been able to say that I actually did something.
They packed up everything a homeless child would need.
I had UPS people tell me it was like the best day of their lives, you know, the most fun they'd ever had, and when are we going to do it again?
Let's do it again.
You're on anytime.
Each of us has something to contribute. We gain in power and purpose, working with others. These volunteers became a supply chain of hope. Relief efforts went on for weeks. Other humanitarian groups needed help getting aid to Haiti. UPS brought in 94,000 blankets from the United States, 100,000 pounds of high-energy biscuits from Norway, 21,000 collapsible water jugs from Denmark, 3 million pounds of vital supplies, including boxes for 50,000 children packed with loving care in a warehouse in New Jersey.
It was extremely gratifying to receive the photos of the children actually receiving the boxes, opening them up, trying on the clothes, and those photographs were shared with all the people that participated in putting the boxes together. I have been very blessed in my life. I'm a very fortunate person. I have 5 children and a grandchild, and I've always been able to provide for my children. And many people in the world, unfortunately, can't say that, and they need help. And so it's very easy to look outside your door and see people that need help.
Millions of Americans are eager to give to their community. More and more companies are giving workers the time and the tools to give back. Small acts building into large efforts. Angels in the disguise of ordinary people, acting together to prove that what we do in this life can make a difference, one child at a time.